Hello. Sorry, give me a moment here. Never show. Get rid of all these. Don't worry about it. I was definitely not looking into how to get certain Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 rewards. We're going to get rid of that as well. Also, 9+ notifications are a bit too much. We're going to get rid of that. And then we're going to go here. And we're going to go here. And we're going to go here. Oh, nope. We're going to go here. No, we're going to go here. Okay, so it doesn't want to start a new one. Okay, cool. And we're going to open this up. And then we're going to... I guess I didn't have to do this at all. New York, Jazz royalty free. Gonna start this. Let me join. Here. And we may have somebody join us during the stream. Okay. We're gonna mute. I'm gonna mute myself. Edit video. Let me get the chat up on my phone. I'm going to... I've got a lot going on right now. And one of those is trying to make money. So, well, in general. But also make enough money to get a secondary monitor so I don't have to constantly use my phone. And today is a special day for the Whistlers podcast. Not because it's the 6th week, although that's pretty awesome. Oh, my phone is... There we go. Not just because it is the 6th week, but it is also the episode of... This is so... I'm fighting with myself. It is also the week of Halloween. Also, my glasses are just because I couldn't find my other ones. Also, ignore the clothes pile behind me. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. These are my regular glasses. Oh my god. I've never worn two of my glasses over each other. Ooh, that messed with my head. I lost these this morning, so I'm using my backup pair from high school. I had a coffee. I should be good. The Wendigo. And that's right. We're doing the Wendigo today. This is going to be one of those where I have to kind of step carefully, but it'll be fun. Wendigo. Wendigos. I'm spelling it right? Wendigo. Yeah, Wendigo. Wendigoon. Oh, I love Wendigoon. Cryptid. Cryptids. Live stream. Creepy. Unknown. Again, as always, this is the back end of YouTube that I have to do while I'm streaming because I don't know how to do this ahead of time yet. I'm learning though. Podcast. What is... Okay. Excuse me. And... Not made for kids. Yeah, it's good. Yep, all looks good. Cool. So, hello! Fancy seeing you here. I guess. I don't really know. I have stuff I want to do right now, but this is like kind of awesome to talk about right now, so. Okay, ooh, Boston. I live near Boston. That's all you get out of me, though. So, hello. Hi, everyone. How are you? It is Wednesday, right? It's Wednesday, okay. Yeah, that's right. Today we're doing the Wendigo. I'm going to give it a few minutes just to let people in. Hope y'all are doing great today. If you're watching this as a VOD, feel free to skip ahead. But I hope everyone's doing good, even if you are watching as a video on demand. Hope you're doing good. I got a little flag thing from the world's biggest arcade, New Hampshire. Went there recently. Pretty cool. Pretty nice place. It's definitely one of those arcades where you go to play. You don't play to win. You play to play. Like, their prize selection is kind of awful, actually. But their games are awesome. I love the games there. So that's pretty cool. I know my hair and my beard are all... Oof, I'm working on it. I can't get my life in order right now. It's so tough. I just don't feel like I have time ever. I'm trying to think. What else? I went to Spooky World, New England. That was a bit of a drive, but that was the same day as the world's biggest arcade in New Hampshire. And that was different. That was different. I don't like spooky, so it was kind of scary. But, I mean, you know. I'm glad I went because it's a memory I have. And I don't regret going. I just didn't find it fun because I don't like being scared. But I'm glad I went because now I can, like, talk about it. So, there is that as well. And it was 30th anniversary. That was pretty neat. What else? Room's a mess. Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah. So, we are going to start soon. I'm going to give it till 8:15. So another 3 minutes. So in the video, 3 minutes. Skip ahead. But, or don't. But, I'm going to give it till 8:15 EST to actually start looking into the Wendigo. But the Wendigo is... So, this week... Last week we did... I think it was last week we did the Thunderbird. I think. Hold on. Let me check here. Actually, let me... no. I need to turn off my TV. I don't want the sound to come through. I believe last week we did the Thunderbird. I'm gonna try and make this week a 2-hour video, by the way. I feel bad that, yeah, it was Thunderbird. I feel bad that last week and the week before were both 1 hour. I've been sick, but I'm getting over it. I'm actually feeling pretty good right now. Knock on wood. But, yeah. Yeah, last week was Thunderbird. And same thing applies this week, where there's a lot of... Hey, Lord Shax! Hello, friend! How are you today? Nice to see you. I'm glad you joined of all weeks this... Well, I should say of all weeks, I'm sorry. I'm glad you were able to make it this week, I should say. This week we're doing the Wendigo, because it's the episode before Halloween, so what better way to do it? Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, no, I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, well. But yeah, hope you guys are doing good. Yeah. I had coffee. It was actually nice. I was able to... So my friend got me a bag of coffee beans, and I decided to try it, but I didn't know how to try it, so I found an older coffee bean grinder, and I just sat there for like 5 minutes grinding away, and I made myself a cup of coffee using the Keurig machine, because I didn't realize that we had a little Keurig adapter, so that was pretty cool. So I had a coffee. I'm feeling alright. Not as bad as previously. And, oh yeah, 1 hour. I feel bad that the last 2 episodes have been 1 hour, so I'm going to try and make this week 2 hours, especially since we're doing one of the biggest topics there is in Cryptid, the Wendigo. So, yeah. But, what time is it? 8:15. Alright, let's get into it. We are doing the Wendigo. So, last week we did the Thunderbird, and just like last week, this week, I'm going to say it again. And I believe I say it in the description too. If not, I definitely want to add it, so forgive me for a second. For looking. Yeah, I understand these creatures have strong ties to many cultures and their histories. We will be not only respectful of their history, but attempt to see how culture influences it. So, the reason why I put that in the description is for examples like today, right? So, we're going over the Wendigo, and there is a lot to go over. Definitely not something for a 2-hour video. This is something that you can look at for, I mean... such a large amount of time that I can't think of it, because it's so historical in a way. The Wendigo is an extremely impactful creature and cryptid when it comes to culture, and modern day culture especially. If you're on any certain meme apps, you'll realize that very quickly. The Wendigo is very important to those who enjoy the creepy, who enjoy the unknown, right? The problem here is sometimes, I do air quotes because sometimes, not all the time, that's why I do the air quotes, not all the time, but sometimes there are bad actors who decide that, hey, we're going to take this creature and erase its history and replace it. I don't have an example of that, but there are papers out there that talk about the fact that something that's very important to certain... and forgive me when I speak here, Native American tribes and cultures has become something different, and the history has been lost. So, as somebody who is a huge history nerd, I mean, up there I have a 48-star flag, right? Like, I love history. Those 2 stars are Alaska and Hawaii, but I like to imagine the stars being avoided are, well, I'll leave that to your interpretation. What two states I don't want in there. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to approach this with a tad bit more gentle hand, because I don't want this to come off as, oh, look at the Wendigo, so creepy and cootsy, haha. No, look, this is real. I mean, at least to some certain peoples, this is a real creature. It needs to be dealt with honesty and sincerity. And if you've been watching these episodes, as you know, I'm very open to the idea of any of these being real, from the Frogman to the Dover Demon to the Wendigo. So this is just a preface, okay? I'm going to approach this with a lot of respect for the past, understanding of the reality of any situations that we encounter, and the history that the creature embodies. Okay? No ill will is intended here. This is purely for educational purposes for myself and you. I am not an authority on it, but this is educational. I say with a pile of clothes and sheets on my bed. So, okay. Got that out of the way. Good. Now then, what is the Wendigo? Now, that's a question that's going to be very difficult to answer. I have my understanding of it, but from what I understand, the Wendigo is some sort of bad shaman in Native American tribes. I don't know if that's correct, but that's my understanding of it. And we'll go from there. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot to unpack here, and it's going to be a very in-depth conversation. So, yeah, Lord Jax, I'm glad you were able to make it this week. you caught the right one. I don't even know, like, if I want to start with Wikipedia. Usually we do, but, like, yeah. You know what? Let's start with Wikipedia. Let's start with Wiki. So what do we got? The Wendigo. Redirects here for other users. Say Wendigo. Disambiguation. The Wendigo is a mythological creature, evil spirit, and also, by the way, you can see the difference in content here compared to the other cryptid Wikipedias that we've read so far. So there's a lot to go over. Skinwalkers and Wendigo always creep me out so much. Yeah, Lord, yeah. Yeah. Skinwalkers specifically. There's an... Okay, I'm gonna plug... Before we go further, you caused this. There is an awesome... I'm turning to the Wendigo. This is an awesome song that I want to plug. I don't know anything. This right here. Look up this. You know what? I'll even link this. Because this is a wonderful song, and it's kind of just... It's kind of that idea of, like, you know... Sorry, that was the New York Jazz. It's kind of the idea of, like, the big fear of my bridges, and, you know, I'm gonna turn this world on fire, and I'm gonna own the streets. Well, maybe not streets. I can't really say much about it, but it's a really good song, and it's kind of relevant, so I'm just gonna put it down here. Check out the song. I already forgot the name. Hold on. The Wendigo. I want to buy Mad Dog Entertainment. Again, if you're looking for an example of what it's like to be a YouTuber, this is also a tutorial. Smiley face. Okay, so anyway, it's a really good song, and it, like, this just goes to show, for example, like, 500,000 views. This goes to show, for example, how impactful the idea of the Wendigo is on modern culture. This is 2019. Like, imagine, you know, in 2020 and 2021, everyone stuck in their houses doing research and learning. Like, the Wendigo is very impactful in modern, at least internet culture. I will say that. So, with that said, let's keep reading here. But yeah, Skinwalkers too. Skinwalkers are going to definitely be another one. I might save that for another special event, maybe like the 10th episode or next Halloween if it's still around. I haven't done it yet by that point, but definitely gonna do a Skinwalker at some point too. Alrighty, now that I've bloviated enough. Now, Wendigo is often said to be a mythological creature, evil spirit originating from the folklore of Plains and Great Lakes natives, as well as some First Nations. It is based in and around the East Coast forests of Canada, the Great Plains region of the United States, and the Great Lakes region of the United States and Canada, grouped in modern ethnology as speakers of Algonquin family languages. We saw this in the Thunderbird episode. The Wendigo is often said to be a malevolent spirit, sometimes depicted as a creature with human-like characteristics, which possesses human beings. The Wendigo is said to invoke feelings of insatiable greed or hunger, the desire to cannibalize other humans, and the propensity to commit murder in those that fall under its influence. In some representations, a Wendigo is described as a giant humanoid with a heart of ice. A foul stench of sudden, unseasonable chill might precede its approach, possibly because of long-time identification by Europeans with their own superstitions about werewolves. For example, as mentioned in the Jesuit relations below, Hollywood film representations often labeled human/beast hybrids featuring antlers or horns with the Wendigo name, but such animal features do not appear in the original indigenous stories. In modern psychiatry, the Wendigo lends its name to a form of psychosis known as Wendigo psychosis. Really? Which is characterized by symptoms such as intense craving for human flesh and an intense fear of becoming a cannibal. Oh, great. Wendigo psychosis is described as a culture-bound syndrome. In some First Nations communities, other symptoms such as insatiable greed and disruption of the environment are also thought to be symptoms of the Wendigo psychosis. Okay, that was a lot. Etymology: the word appears in many Native American languages and has many alternative translations. The source of the English word is the Ojibwe word Wendigo. In the Cree language, it is, you can just take a second to look at all these different translations and ways to say it. I'm not going to try to pronounce any of these. I'm going to butcher those. A plural form, Wendigoag. Gulag? The Wendigo sent me to the Gulag. A plural form, Wendigoag, is also spelled Wendigoag, blah, blah, blah. The Proto-Algonquin term has been reconstructed as Nitkio-wa, which may have meant owl. Okay, that was the worst part. Parallels. The Wechug is a similar being that appears in the legends of the Athabascan people of the Northwest Pacific Coast. It too is cannibalistic. However, it is characterized as enlightened with ancestral insights. Okay, so there's your etymology. Folklore. Description. The Wendigo is part of the traditional belief system of a number of Algonquin-speaking peoples, including the Ojibwe, the Saulteaux, the Cree, the Nazcapi, and the Innu. Hey, I didn't do too bad on those, I think. Although descriptions can vary somewhat, common to all these cultures is the view that the Wendigo is a malevolent, cannibalistic, supernatural being. They were strongly associated with winter, the north, coldness, famine, and starvation. Basil H. Johnston, an Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, gives a description of a Wendigo. The Wendigo, quote, the Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation. I don't know the word. Sounds very medical. It's dissected skin. Dissected? I don't know. Skin pulled tightly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against the skin. Its complexion, the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, unclean and suffering from suppuration of the flesh. The Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. That's a lot of medical terms. Hooper! Hello! Baldo. Mountain Man. Oh, it's because of this? I know, it's rough, man. I'm trying, but it gets to the point where, like, I don't know. And plus, like, my hair, like, I don't think it looks... My mother hates it, though. She hates it. Oh, man. She does not like the long hair and the long beard, but I do. The Ojibwe, Eastern Cree, West Main Swampy Cree, Nassakapi, and Innu lore, Wendigos are often described as giants that are many times larger than human beings, a characteristic absent from myths and other Algonquin cultures. Interesting. Whenever a Wendigo ate another person, it could grow in proportion to the meal it had just eaten, so it could never be full. Therefore, Wendigos are portrayed as simultaneously gluttonous and extremely thin due to starvation. Interesting, considering that now we've already started hitting... This is almost like feeling a little bit biblical. It sounds weird, I know, but think about it. We have... Up here, it mentioned famine, it mentioned cold, it mentioned starvation, and now we're talking about gluttony. I don't know. It's getting, I don't know. Beers man. Aw, thank you, Lord Shax. I appreciate that. I try. Baldo was in reference to what I sent you the other day. It's beautiful. Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I like it. I need to look into like a proper conditioner, because the one I have right now completely just like dries the hair. I need one meant for me. But, like, I want to use it on this, too, so I can have, like, a poof beard, you know, and the hair could be like, poof. I need to do something. I should take more pride in how I look, but at the same time, I kind of hate myself, so, Anyway. Do as I say, not as I do. Love yourself. And the Wendigo is seen as... Oh, yeah, we already read that. A Wendigo need not lose the human's powers of cognition or speech, and in some depictions may clearly communicate with his prospective victims or even threaten or taunt them. A specimen of folk story collected in the early 20th century by Lottie Chautauqua, Marsden, an ethnographer of the Chippewas of Rama First Nation. These words. In which a Wendigo, or I should say, my ability to pronunciate these words, in which a Wendigo also exhibits tool use, an ability to survive partial dismemberment, and auto-cannibalism. Reads, okay. One time long ago, a big Wendigo stole an Indian boy, but the boy was too thin, so the Wendigo couldn't eat him up right away, but he traveled with the Indian boy waiting for him till he'd get fat. The Wendigo had a knife and he cut the boy in the hand to see if it was fat enough to eat, but the boy didn't get fat. They traveled too much. One day they came to an Indian village, and the Wendigo sent the boy to the Indian village to get some things for him to eat. He just gave the boy so much time there and back. The boy told the Indians that the Wendigo was near them and showed them his hand when the Wendigo has cut him to see if he was fat enough to eat. They heard the Wendigo calling the boy. He said to the boy, "Hurry up. Don't tell lies to those Indians." All of those Indians went to where the Wendigo was and cut off his legs. They went back again to see if he was dead. He wasn't dead. He was eating the juice, the marrow, from inside of the bones of his own legs that were cut off. The Indians asked the Wendigo if there was any fat on them. He said, "You bet there is. I've eaten lots of Indians. No wonder they are fat." The Indians then killed him and cut him into pieces. The end of this giant Wendigo. Well then. That's a thing. That is terrifying. All right, cool. Okay, human cannibalism. In some traditions, humans overpowered by greed could turn into Wendigos. The myth thus served as a method of encouraging cooperation and moderation. Other sources say Wendigos were created when a human resorted to cannibalism to survive. Humans could also turn into Wendigos by being in contact with them for too long. Taboo reinforcement ceremony. Among the that tribe, the Cree and the Ojibwe, a satirical ceremony dance is sometimes performed during times of famine to reinforce the seriousness of the Wendigo taboo. The ceremony, known as that word, was performed during times of famine and involved wearing masks and dancing backward around a drum. The last known Wendigo ceremony conducted in the United States was at Lake Wendigo of Star Island of Crass Lake within the Leech Lake Indian Reservation in northern Minnesota. Okay. Psychosis. In historical accounts of retroactively diagnosed Wendigo psychosis, it had been reported that humans became possessed by the Wendigo spirit after being in a situation of needing food and having no other choice besides cannibalism. In 1661, the Jesuit Relations reported, quote, hold on. So Lord Shax, winter starvation and mental degradation. So all I'm seeing is a guy who lost his mind and started to eat people either because of lack of warmth and food, or greed. Yeah, so so far, all right, and again, I'm not one to, right now, I'm not confident enough to say I believe or just do not believe in the idea of the Wendigo here. But I will say the idea of this seems almost like a cautionary tale. I don't know if that's fair to say. Don't eat others. Watch your gluttony. Don't become greedy. Don't let that consume you. Keep your mind. Careful where you step or else. Kind of like cautionary, folklore tale. I don't know how that relates to much else, but we'll see. We're still in the early stages. All right, so the Jesuit Relations reported, quote, "What caused us greater concern was the news that met us upon entering the lake, namely, that the men deputed by our conductor for the purpose of summoning to the nations of the North Sea and assigning them a rendezvous where they were to await our coming, had met their death the previous winter in a very strange manner. Those poor men, according to a report given to us, were seized by an ailment unknown to us, but not very unusual among the people we were seeking. They are afflicted with neither lunacy, hypochondria, nor frenzy, but have a combination of all these species of disease, which affects their imaginations and causes them a more than canine hunger. This makes them so ravenous for human flesh that they pounce on to women, children, and even upon men, like veritable werewolves, and devour them ferociously, without being able to appease or glut their appetite, ever seeking fresh prey, and the more greedily they more eat. The ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sole remedy among these simple people for checking such acts of murder, they were slain in order to save the course of their madness. Although in many recorded cases of Wendigo psychosis, the individual has been killed to prevent cannibalism from resulting. Some Cree folklore recommends treatment by ingestion of fatty animal meats or drinking animal grease. Those treated may sometimes vomit ice as part of the curing process. It seems like my grandparents would tell me to share. It seems like something my grandparents would tell me to share and be kind of. I would become a or I would become a monster. Okay, yeah, it does, right? It really does. It has that feel to it. One of the more famous cases of Wendigo psychosis reported involved a Plains Cree trapper from Alberta named Swift Runner. During the winter of 1878, Swift Runner and his family were starving and his eldest son had died. 25 miles away from emergency food supplies at Hudson's Bay Company Post, Swift Runner butchered and ate his wife and 5 remaining children. Given that he resorted to cannibalism so near to foods, and that he killed and consumed the remains of all those present, it was revealed that Swift Runner's was not a case of pure cannibalism as a last resort to avoid starvation, but rather a man with Wendigo psychosis. He eventually confessed and was executed by authorities at Fort Saskatchewan. I guess that man was just mentally ill. Not to simplify it, but mentally unwell. Another well-known case involving Wendigo psychosis was that of Jack Fiddler, an OG Cree chief and medicine man known for his powers at defeating Wendigos. In some cases, this entailed killing people with Wendigo psychosis. As a result, in 1907, Fiddler and his brother Joseph were arrested by the Canadian authorities for homicide. Jack committed suicide, but Joseph was tried and sentenced to life in prison. He ultimately was granted a pardon, but died 3 days later in jail before receiving the news of the pardon. Oof. Fascination with Wendigo psychosis among Western ethnographers, psychologists, and anthropologists led to a hotly debated controversy in the 1980s over the historicity of the... What? The what? The actuality of persons and events. Okay. This phenomenon... Some research argued that essentially Wendigo psychosis was a fabrication, the result of naive anthropologists taking stories related to them at face value without observation. Others had pointed to a number of credible eyewitness accounts, both by Algonquins and others, as evidence that Wendigo psychosis was a factual historical phenomenon. The frequency of Wendigo psychosis cases decreased sharply within the 20th century as a boreal Algonquin people came into greater and greater contact with European ideologies and more sedentary, I don't know that word, man. Less rural lifestyles. Escalated very quickly. Children too, yeah. I know this is definitely one of the darker episodes that we've done. I gotta say, in the 2004 Trusty Revenge of the Wendigo on disorders and treatments of the behavioral health industry in the United States and Canada that are peculiar to indigenous people, James B. Waldram wrote, quote, "No actual cases of Wendigo psychosis have ever been studied, and Lou Marano's scathing critique in '85 should have killed off the cannibal monster with the psychiatric annals. The Wendigo, however, continues to seek revenge for this attempted scholarly execution by periodically duping unsuspecting passerbyers like psychiatrists into believing the Wendigo psychosis not only exists, but that a psychiatrist, I'm sorry, I'm screwing up words right now, psychiatrist could conceivably encounter a patient suffering from this disorder in his or her practice today. Wendigo psychosis may well be the most perfect example of the construction of an aboriginal mental disorder by the scholarly professions, and its persistence dramatically underscores how constructions of the aboriginal by these professions have, like Frankenstein's monster, taken on a life of their own." Preach, brother. All right. Man, that was scathing. That man knew what he wanted to say, and he got that across very, very acutely. Wow. Wow, respect to that guy. The 10th revision of the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, ICD, classifies Wendigo as a culture-specific disorder, describing it as rare. Historic accounts of cannibalistic obsession. Symptoms include depression, homicidal or suicidal thoughts, and a delusion, compulsive wish to eat human flesh. Some controversial new studies question the syndrome's legitimacy, claiming cases were actually a product of hostile accusations invented to justify the victim's ostracism or execution, end quote. Crack my back. Oh, okay. A lot of information here. So far we have pretty much the idea of the folklore that in the Native American tribes mentioned previously or above, that it is a legitimate creature that can follow you, eat you, and stay, within your body. And then you have, as the West became more... What's the word? As European people started to come to the West, the scientific communities thought this more as a mental breakdown, essentially, a severe mental breakdown that ended in the result of cannibalism and homicide and suicide. So, kind of a dichotomy right now. That's what I'm seeing. Stay hydrated or else you'll become the Wendigo. And don't get greedy or else you'll become the Wendigo. And don't eat a lot or else you'll become the Wendigo. Food for thought. The more you know. The 10th revision... Oh, we read that. As a concept or metaphor. Wested the natives. I mean... A little bit. There's no evidence that ever happened. A little bit. Alright. As a concept or metaphor. In addition to denoting a cannibalistic monster from certain traditional folklore, some Native Americans also understand the Wendigo conceptually. As a concept, the Wendigo can apply to any person, idea, or movement infected by a corrosive drive towards self-aggrandizing greed and excessive consumption, traits that sow disharmony and destruction if left unchecked. Ojibwe scholar Brady DeSanti asserts that the Wendigo, quote, can be understood as a marker indicating a person imbalanced both internally and toward the larger community of human and spiritual beings around them, end quote. Out of equilibrium and estranged by their communities, individuals thought to be affected by the Wendigo spirit unravel and destroy the ecological balance around them. Chippewa author Louise Erdrich's novel, The Roundhouse, winner of the National Book Award, depicts a situation where an individual person becomes a Wendigo. The novel describes its primary antagonist, a rapist whose violent crimes desecrate a sacred site, as a Wendigo who must be killed because he threatens the reservation's safety. In addition to characterizing individual people who exhibit destructive tendencies, the Wendigo can also describe movements and events with similarly negative effects. According to Professor Chris Shedler, the figure of the Wendigo represents, quote, consuming forms of exclusion and assimilation through which, end quote, through which groups dominate other groups, end quote again, for some reason. This application shows Native Americans to describe colonialism and its agents as Wendigos, since the process of colonialism ejected natives from the land and threw the natural world out of balance. DeSanti reports that the 1999 horror film Ravenous as an illustration of the argument, equating, quote, the cannibal monster, end quote, to, quote, American colonialism and manifest destiny, end quote. This movie features a character who articulates that expansion brings displacement and destruction as side effects, explaining that, quote, manifest destiny, end quote, and, quote, Western expansion, end quote, will bring, a lot of quotes here, quote, thousands of gold-hungry Americans over the mountains in search of new lives. This country is seeking to be whole, stretching out its arms, consuming all it can, and we merely follow, end quote. As a concept, Wendigo can apply to situations other than some Native American Europeans' relations. It can serve as a metaphor explaining any pattern of domination by which groups subject and dominate or violently destroy and displace. Joe Lockhart, English professor at Arizona State University, argues that Wendigos are agents of, quote, social cannibalism, end quote, who know, quote, no provincial or national borders. All human cultures have been visited by shape-shifting Wendigos. Their visitations speak to the inseparability of the human experience. National identity is irrelevant to this borderless horror, end quote. Lockhart's ideas explain that Wendigos are an expression of a dark aspect of human nature that drive toward greed, consumption, and disregard for other life in the pursuit of self-aggrandizement. Okay. Romantic scholar and documentarian Emily Zarka, also a professor at Arizona State University, observes that two commonalities among the indigenous cultures of Algonquin language family speakers are that they are situated in climes where harsh is that like climates? Climes where harsh winters are frequent and may be accompanied by starvation. She also states that the Wendigo symbolically represents three major concepts. It is the incarnation of winter, the embodiment of hunger, and the personification of selfishness. Alright, so that's it as a concept and metaphor. To be fair, I mean, that sounds like pretty much everything we've been saying up till now, just put into, Wikipedia form. Yeah, that sounds about right, though. Whew. I should get a water. Alright. In popular culture, and this is the one that kind of shows how it's more relevant today. Also, a person dressed as a Wendigo character from the television series Hannibal at Fan Expo. I mean, I won't lie, that's not a terrible costume. Seems pretty... I mean, you even see the ribs. Like, I don't know. I think that's pretty... Oh, you even see, like, the... Yeah, no, that seems pretty good. That seems like a pretty good cosplay. Better than what I'm working on right now for a certain YouTube project. May or may not have anything to do with this. That's all I'll say. Keep your eyes out. 10th anniversary of this channel is coming up December 1st. Keep your eyes out. Alright, in popular culture, enough stroking my own ego. I'll become a Wendigo if I don't stop. That makes sense to refer to people as a Wendigo. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Right? It's just a black suit with a mask. Like, everything is just, like, keeping that body heat in. Ugh. Alright. Although distinct from how it appears in traditional lore, one of the first appearances of a character inspired by or named after a Wendigo in non-indigenous literature is Algernon Blackwood's 1910 novella, The Wendigo. Joe Nazar wrote that Blackwood's, quote, subtly demonizing rhetoric transforms a Wendigo from a native myth into a descriptive template for the Indian savage, end quote. Alrighty. That's loaded. Blackwood's work has influenced many of the subsequent portrayals in mainstream horror fiction, such as August Derleth's, quote, The Thing That Walked on the Wind, end quote, and, quote, Ithaca. Ithaque? End quote. Ithaque? I think so. 1933 and 1941, respectively, which in turn inspired the character in Stephen King's novel Pet Sematary, where it is a personification of evil, an ugly, grinning creature with yellow-gray eyes, ears replaced by ram's horns, water vapor coming from his nostrils, and a pointed, decaying yellow tongue. These works set the template for later portrayals of pop culture, at times even replacing Native American lore. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. In an early short story by Thomas Pynchon, quote, Morality and Mercy in Vena, end quote, first published in 1959, the plot centers around a character developing Wendigo syndrome and going on a killing spree. Now, that's interesting. So he actually took the idea of the Wendigo and used it more about Wendigo psychosis than a Wendigo. That's interesting. A character inspired by the Wendigo appears in an American comic book series published by Marvel Comics, created by the writer Steve Englehart and artist Herb Trimpe. The monster is a result of a curse that afflicts those who commit acts of cannibalism. It first appeared in the Incredible Hulk number 162, April 1973, and again in October 74 issue. Without explicitly using the term, in 1995 novel Solar Storms by Chickasaw author and poet Linda K. Hogan both explored the mythology of the Wendigo and used the creatures as a device to interrogate issues of independence, spirituality, and politics, and individuals' relationship with family, and a metaphor for corporate veracity, exploration, and power viewed as a form of cannibalism. Alrighty. Other creatures based on the legend or named for it appear in various films and television shows, including Dark Was the Night and Ravenous. Television stories include Teen Wolf, Supernatural, Blood Ties, Charmed, Grimm, and Hannibal, where an FBI profiler has recurring dreams or visions of a Wendigo that symbolizes the titular cannibalistic serial killer. A Wendigo appears in Milo... What? Okay. A Wendigo appears in My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Heartwarming Eve, under the pun title of Wendigo, and in the DuckTales Christmas special Last Christmas, in which the creatures are described as poor souls turned into monsters by obsession. Okay, that one's actually pretty accurate. Obsession and desperation. A Wendigo also appears in 2020 horror film The Retreat. That My Little Pony thing caught me so off guard. 2015 horror survival video game Until Dawn by Supermassive Games features Wendigos as a main antagonist. Risk, the 2016 debut novel by Canadian horror fiction writer Nathan Negan Newton Adler Adler from Call of Duty was based on the story of the Wendigo. The 2015 series Summoner by Taran Muthuraru featured a type of demon known as a Wendigo. In the 2018 role-playing game Fallout 76 by Bethesda, that's kind of where my involvement with this stuff became. I love 76. Wendigos are featured as one of the cryptid enemies found in the area of Appalachia, mutated from people who consumed human flesh in isolation. Again, that's fairly accurate to the original lore. In 2018, the first-person shooter video game Dusk, Wendigos are featured as strong enemies that remain invisible to the player until they receive damage. Several of these creatures also appear in the game's cover art. In the 2021 film Antlers by Scott Cooper, Frank Luca's father... Luca, I couldn't think of it as that one game that Rooster Teeth had, was it Mike or something? Anyway, no Luca. Transformed into Wendigo, which is portrayed as a deer-like creature with a glowing heart that moves from person to person with a never-ending hunger. Guillermo del Toro, producer of the film, developed the Wendigo on the basis that the more the creature eats, the more it gets hungry, and the more it gets hungry, the weaker it becomes. Okay. End wiki. That one was our longest yet, clocking in at nearly 30 minutes. That's a lot to take in after hearing of cannibal people that, boom, MLP. It's like we literally in the same article go from how a Wendigo was cutting the hand of a boy to see if there was enough fat in the blood to eat, and then sent the boy into a town to receive more food so that he could fatten up the boy and eat the boy, and then get murdered himself by the townspeople as a protection for the boy against the Wendigo, to also, they're in My Little Pony Friendship is Mad. Like, huh? Which, to be fair, there's a lot of children's shows that throw in a lot of adult things. This is very well known. There's a lot of children's shows that throw in a lot of adult themes to kind of like make it more, I don't want to say bearable, but to make it more apt for the people watching the show with the children. That's a very niche way to toss them in, though. That's, whew, okay. So, first band down, that's the Wendigo Wiki Archive. That was a lot. That was a lot. But, was good. So now that we have a basic understanding, well, what should we do? Should we do... Well, Jax, I think you're the only one right now in chat. Do you want to do Wendigo search and jump from link to link, or do you want to do Wendigo report? Because we could look at reportings of Wendigos, or we could do a bit more like, you know, source material reading. What do you want to do? And if there's anyone else in chat, let me know as well. I only see one person watching right now, but that could be wrong. YouTube's not the most live streamer friendly platform. That's Twitch. Shocking. I know. But hey, it works. And while we wait, make sure to check out my 8-hour live stream that's up as a video on demand of Modern Warfare 2. Yeah. 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. I'm crying. Okay. Reports sound interesting. Alright, we'll do the reports. You got it. I already saved it. Okay. Wendigo report. And also, I just want to mention real quick how it was interesting that at the bottom of that page, after everything was said and done, what am I? Is that cat puke? No, okay. After everything was said and done, it almost sounded like comics and video games did more to go out of their way to respect the original. Like, the idea that Fallout 76, the Wendigo is a creature who engages in cannibalism and self-isolation, that's pretty darn close to the original lore from Native American tribes. Same with the film, I think it was. That it was a corrupted person that's mentally unwell that allowed themselves to indulge themselves into greed and gluttony and just became this creature like unlike what they were. It's interesting how, while the use of the Wendigo can be seen as, let's just say as it is, culturally inappropriate, even with that, there aren't many companies not using the Wendigo, as there are companies that go to respect the Wendigo and still use it as a plot device. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, it's kind of like the idea of, you know, why would you cancel me if I'm using the information as it was meant to be used in the beginning to get a story across, right? Like, kind of actually like the Mandela Catalog. If you never saw the Mandela Catalog, I highly recommend you go watch it. It uses the Bible as a means to tell a story. And while there are people who argue that the use of the Bible in the series, it is a perversion of the Bible, it can be easy to fall into that idea. But if you look at it from, you know, a bird's eye view down, you can also say that, hey, it's using the Bible as inspiration and it's respecting the source material. Why go after it? So, it's interesting. It's very interesting to think about. If it's changed too much, it's going to be another creature. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like, once you take the source material and you start to like, okay, well, you know, why don't we change this and this and this and this? At that point, just make your own thing. Make something new, you know? Like, base it all. You take inspiration, so. And you don't really see... You do see that with some of the earlier stuff in the 1900s that the Wikipedia mentioned, like the 1910 novel, and Stephen King, Pet Sematary, which I refuse to watch. I like animals. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's just food for thought. It's food for thought. Again, I don't know... I don't know about this stuff. I learn as we go, so if I'm saying something that's like, yeah, no, you're an idiot, hey, I'm just trying to get enough views to make money on YouTube, okay? So don't yell at me here. I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. Alright. Anywho, spiel over. What do we have? We have the History Channel, but that's more about the Wendigo as a whole. Do we want to go to the Sasquatch Chronicles? Do we want to go to this? Let's go to Sasquatch Chronicles. Let's say, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, boys. Look at this. Now this is a website that knows what it wants. It wants a Sasquatch. Wow. This is straight, like, 2012, you know, Web 2.0 stuff right here. Alright. There's episodes? Not 890? Wow. Alright. Well then. Anywho. Sorry, I'm just in shock. Alright. Sasquatch Chronicles blog. March 11th. Wendigo attack report. Is this a real blog? What am I reading fiction? Acts as a safe haven for witnesses to share their encounters. The show debuted in 2013 on premise that existing Bigfoot community was primarily focused on the research and opinion of experts, while overlooking the value of giving eyewitnesses a voice in the discussion. It is now regarded as the first and most prolific program developed around the framework of giving a stage for regular folks to recount their experiences. People are seeing something in the woods there are too many reports for this to just be ignored. Okay. Okay, so no, this is based supposedly on a real report. Is that you? Oh, thank you, Chex. Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, I'm not going on willy-nilly here. I'm doing my best, but thank you, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna take this as legitimate, and we can always also go back. We'll read this real quick. Not even as long as the Wikipedia, and we'll go from there. Alright, Duke writes report details told by trapper Howard B. LeBlanc, a 54-year-old trapper and hunting guide from Kenora, Ontario. The tale was told to Howard when he was a boy by his father, a French-Canadian fur trapper from when he worked the area northeast of Hutsville, Ontario as a boy before Algonquin Park was a managed area. At that time, the lumber trade was very active in the area, lending to an influx of hunters and fishermen whom used the lodging roads to gain greater access to the deep wilderness area. A father and son from Chicago, Illinois, by the family name of Sears, on a hunting trip for moose in the greater Mattawa River region, guided by an Algonquin Indian and French-Canadian guide, Little Jack, probably a nickname. The guide, Little Jack, was a guide of some reputation in the region who was known for putting hunters onto large moose and was much sought after, having made a name for himself guiding rich tourists and visiting politicians from across Canada and the United States. The year was 1984. Whoa. The exact location was a lake, name withheld. Season October. Rutting season for moose. The best time to hunt bull moose, which congregate at that time of year to battle for dominance in the mating season. The hunters and guide paddled into the main trunk of Mattawa River along the Ontario-Quebec border, taking a branch creek north into Quebec. On this 2-day trip, many moose were seen, but the Sears were looking for a true trophy and impress Little Jack to take them deeper into the wild region. With hesitation, Little Jack agreed to take them to a lake he knew of, but explained to them that they would stay only in that area during daylight hours and would be departing by midday, as he had fears of some large beasts that were reputed to frequent the area. The Seers took as superstition and largely discounted Little Jack's warnings. On arriving at the lake, Little Jack laid down the ground rules for the day's hunt. He instructed the Seers to stay on the south side of the lake and placed the farther in a thicket overlooking clearing that was bordered by the lake. The son was to canoe along the lake to the east and set up his hunting blind along a marsh area. Excuse me. Both men promised they would not cross the lake, which was not wide at that point, and the guide would go between the two men frequently. Little Jack was nervous, spent a great deal of time that morning being sure his charges were staying in their assigned hunting spots. At about noon, Little Jack told Mr. Sears Sr. to begin to get ready to leave, promising to them back early the next morning. Then began to turn to leave, but Mr. Sears Sr. then pointed out to the lake. The writing on this is kind of tough to read. Little Jack turned to see young Mr. Sears paddling across the lake, already very close to the other side. Little Jack began to run, yelling and waving, trying to get young Mr. Sears turn around, but the younger man either did not hear him or chose to ignore him. It was at this time Mr. Sears Sr. notices a large shape moving in the tree line across the shore of the opposite side of the lake. Thinking it was a moose, he called out to Little Jack, whom at this point was about to land his canoe. Little Jack was frantic, turned to yell, Mr. Sears Sr. and remained silent. Getting into the canoe, Little Jack began to paddle as quickly as possible, but by this time, young Mr. Sears was already landing and pulling his canoe up onto the opposing shoreline. Little Jack again tried to call young Mr. Sears back, but the young man ignored his calls and walked into the woods. In the time it took for Little Jack to cross the lake, he heard the reports of young Mr. Sears' rifle as several shots were fired. Following the silence for a moment as Little Jack was about to land his canoe, young Mr. Sears came running out of the line as if being pursued. Little Jack had no time to land his canoe, but raised his own rifle to shoot whatever might be chasing young Mr. Sears. A large, upright, hair-covered beast emerged from the tree line after young Mr. Sears. In a few short steps, the beast was upon young Mr. Sears, and the beast reportedly decapitated the young man by grabbing him off the upper torso from behind, and then with its other hand simply twisted the young man's head off. Huh? Little Jack emptied his gun into the beast, but the beast did not fall. Instead, it carried the body of young Miss Sears back into the woods, dragging the body by a leg, carrying the young man's head in his other hand. Little Jack, having no more ammunition, returned to Mr. Sears Sr. As reported, Mr. Sears Sr. insisted on going after the beast. After having witnessed the entire event from the vantage point of the opposing side of the lake, but Little Jack refused and almost had to drag the distraught father away from the area. When having reached their camp at the Mattawa River, Little Jack insisted they pack and paddle to the northeast settlement, which they reached by following the morning. It was reported to a local constable who led a search party that included both Little Jack and Mr. Sears Sr. and several loggers and woodsmen to the lake, but they later searched for several days, finding only young Mr. Sears' broken rifle and a short trail of blood to the actual area of death, young Mr. Sears. It was reported that the searchers all heard beastly screams and howls on those nights when the search would be suspended due to the coming darkness, and eventually they all gave up in fear of the aftermath. Little Jack moved to Huntsville and area after that trip. His reputation ruined. He made his living trapping and fishing and was said to have become an alcoholic, drinking away his money which he had made a living off, but never too far from town. Wow. Okay. The more detailed the report, the more I distrust. It sounds like something out of a novel. It really does. Oh my god. Wow. Okay, well, moving on. Yeah, it sounds and looks like a Sasquatch as opposed to a Wendigo. Why is it referred to as Wendigo? Wendigos are the ones known for ripping heads off and collecting them. If a Sasquatch were to rip a head off, they may just leave it there or just bury it there because they are not known to collect heads. I hope this helps. Correct, Jeffrey. Also, he drug is drug a word? Okay. Is drug a word in reference to dragging? Also, he drugged the body away, indicating that he probably had the intention of eating the remains. Bigfoot probably wouldn't do that very often. Wendigo are notorious for man-eaters. Bigfoot may get angry about you being in the territory and may try to chase you away or harm you, but Wendigo will not only do that, but also treat you like a possible menu item. I believe that most of the accounts of Bigfoot eating people are actually Wendigo. Okay, well, that's right. I have heard of that before. Yeah, okay. People are like, what? Brute force decap! It's Patrick. Oh my god. Thoroughly and accounting for the reading, and damn, if you begin the fight, you have to finish the fight, no matter how many other option is decapitation, SpongeBob. Alright. Well, that was interesting. Strange cases of modern encounters alright, Mysterious Universe. Help us pull back a little bit here. Please. That was something else. That's a long one. Alright, let's do another about here, because this seems kind of clickbaity, I'm not gonna lie. It might not be. And I don't want to sound like I'm passing judgment off on these websites I'm going to. I just want to make sure I'm covering all bases with these. Yeah, okay. This almost reminds me of Top 5's website they had about us. Yeah, right? It's interesting art. I do like the art that I'm seeing on the website. I'll give it that much. The latest news and podcasts covering the strange, extraordinary, weird, wonderful, and everything in between. We strive to maintain a balance of healthy skepticism and entertainment while never losing a sense of humor. Alright. Okay. Fair enough. I guess we'll stick with it. Yes, that's very interesting artwork. I like that. Huh. You have to subscribe to have a light theme? Shouldn't it be the other way around? If that happened on Discord, nobody would be subscribing. Alright, we're going to see how far we go here on this article particularly. I do like the art, though. We're going to take a quick look at that. So, tall man with extreme thinness and antlers. That. Okay. Alright, well. It's like, subscription for a light theme? Really? Really? Look, I went to college for business and IT. I cannot think of a single reason why that would be beneficial to the business. I just can't. It should be the other way around. If it was the other way around, like, okay, you know what? That's a smart business move. For light theme? I don't know. Regardless. Is this going to reset soon? Yeah, we got like 10 minutes. Alright, strange cases of modern encounters with the Wendigo. Brett Swanser. Undark theme. Alright. By far the most well-known and discussed type of hairy wild man of native lore is none other than a mysterious legendary entity known as a Wendigo, animalistic, hulking beast with strange powers. These creatures have been mainstays of Native American lore for generations. The deeds well known in many of these tribal stories and legends. Into the days of settlers, there were many cases of even the white man coming across the abominations, and the creatures were often blamed for missing persons. Yet, looking at some scattered accounts in modern times, it seems that people are still having harrowing encounters with alleged Wendigos, and here we will look at a selection of some of these. To truly understand these terrifying tales, this is very well written, by the way. Already, I like it. One must first perhaps know what a Wendigo actually is traditionally said to be and represent, originating from the myths and legends of Native American Algonquin tribes based on the northern forests of Nova Scotia, the east coast of Canada, and Great Lakes region of Canada. The Wendigo truly holds a place amongst the most frightening creatures of native lore, and with good reason. Most often described as a massive, hairy brute up to 15 feet tall, with a mix of human and animalistic features, the Wendigo has long been said to partake in acts of murder, insatiable greed, and cannibalism. In lore, the creature is supposedly a gaunt, extremely tall apparition that had glowing eyes, long yellowed fangs, wicked claws, and a long tongue, often also depicted with antlers, and which was which was eternally enthralled to insatiable hunger. Okay. Growing even larger with each kill it made, and yet never fully satiated, always skeletal and slight no matter how much it ate. One description of the Wendigo was given by native author and ethnographer Basil H. Johnson, who wrote of it. Hey, they ripped this from the Wikipedia. Well, just a description. There are many local traditions of the Wendigo with slight different details in its appearance and abilities depending on the region, but it is always said to be frightening, and there are always variations in their powers. They are variously described as having the ability to turn invisible, to read minds, or to mimic human voices in order to draw victims away to isolated areas, as well as shape-shifting powers and the ability to generate waves of profound fear. Like, half of those we heard about, never heard about it being able to turn invisible or read minds. I don't remember that part of the Wikipedia at the very least. But again, it's Wikipedia, so. Their origins also have some variations, but the main cause, according to the majority of traditions, is that humans who were overcome by greed or hunger, or those who were restored to cannibalism, stay alive or at risk of becoming... This is literally the Wikipedia. In one account, the origin of this beast of Wendigo stared at a warrior who made a deal with the devil in order to save his tribe from some unspecified calamity. In others, it is simply greed cannibalism, thus a trick, or one can also be made into a Wendigo by another of the creatures. Yet, in every one of them, this is the spawn of this. All is an unholy abomination that seeks constant sustenance. Although most of the stories of the Wendigo encounters occurred far back into the 19th and 20th centuries and beyond, there have been sporadic reports of what could be possible Wendigos There have been sporadic reports of what could be possible Wendigos up in more modern times. Okay, sorry. One report comes from an eyewitness on Reddit. Okay. I'm not saying people on Reddit aren't validated. Okay? I'm not. I'm just saying you have the internet at your fingertips and you go to Reddit. I don't know. Just all right, no offense to the person who wrote it. Universe Master on Graham. No offense to you, my fellow human. All right, no offense to you. It's just, and I truly mean none. I just read it. I couldn't go to like a news report or something, but whatever. Maybe there aren't any. Who knows? I shouldn't judge, but I will. Who says that he is of Native American descent and that this happened near an unspecified reservation on a camping trip when he was 13 years old. Although things started off normally, it all got rather strange when several odd occurrences began to unfold. They would find dead birds around the campground. Things went missing from their own camp, and they were at a loss to explain what was going on. It escalated when they began to hear footsteps in the area. A terrible stench would sometimes waft through, and there was a constant inescapable feeling of being watched. They nevertheless stayed at the camp, and it was a trip they had been planning for months. And on the second to last day, something very bizarre would unfold, of which the witness says. Okay, so here we go. This is what Universe Master on Graham said on the Wendigo. Quote, although these occurrences were a disturbance, it did not deter us from staying for the final 2 days as we had been planning it for months. But one experience years ago, on the day right before our departure, still haunts me to this day. I had been strolling through the forest while looking firewood when I heard rustling in the bushes behind me. As this happened, it seemed that all life ceased around me because I could only hear my heartbeat and the lone heavy footsteps approaching me. Then I heard my name called from what seemed to be every direction, yet echoed from in front of me while also coming from behind. The voice calling me was a harsh, raspy, animalistic tone, imitation of my sister's voice, who had just recently left a trip due to stress only a few hours ago. This had sent horrendous chills down my spine, so I ran the fastest I've ever had back towards the campsite, where I heard the twigs and leaves crunching behind me. I had finally reached the campsite when the footsteps suddenly stopped. I was relieved and slumped over the cabin stairs when I slipped on a rock, slipping out of the makeshift fire. It had caused me to head straight into it. The blazing force of nature had almost burned my face when I had just stopped mid-fall. I hadn't gained any of my balance, and it was just as if someone hanging on to me and pulled me back. I'm not sure what it was, but my family suggests that it was my guardian angel saving me from an early death. But after that experience, I've never been the same campsite ever again, and didn't go camping for a few years after that. Still, what really scares me the most from back then was when we had been leaving the site. I looked back from the car window, saw a figure standing at the tree line staring at me. It was lanky and looked starved to the point of having its skin wrapping tightly around its bones. But when I looked onto the pathway, the footprints were completely gone, and as I blinked, we rounded the corner and seemingly vanished into thin air. This has left me questioning what was in those woods, and when was it a reality? But when my sister asked me why I was so shaken, I told her what I experienced, and her face went pale. She told me that before leaving, a terrifically gaunt figure had been watching us across the riverbank, and that it had noticed her and, quote, ran away on all four at a fictional speed, end quote. And she shakily said, staying quite frightened after, until speaking with a phrase that still haunts me today, quote, before I had left early, that thing had left long, deep scratch mark on the trail sign, end quote. It was the one that it was chased me on. All right. So, that was interesting. The creepiness getting to me. Probably late to tell you, but I'm a scaredy cat. Don't miss it with the supernatural. Yeah. I know. Well, hey, it's Halloween. I mean, in like 5 days, but this is the one mess with, yeah. This is the one right before Halloween, the podcast, so it fits. So what was that thing? Wendigo or not, it was very creepy to say the least. Another report comes from Reddit user Katzaydange, who does not specify his exact location, but assures us that it was an area where Wendigos, quote, could and have been spotted, end quote. It started with finding mutilated animals around the remote property in rather grisly fashion, including dead foxes and other deer that had their spinal columns torn and strewn around, as well, the poor things, as well as vicious claw and teeth marks and limbs rendered from their bodies. I hate that image. It doesn't even freak me out, just, it's gross. God bless those things, goodness. Sometimes these animals were disemboweled and their entrails found hanging from bushes or trees like macabre Christmas tree ornaments. Sometimes they were simply torn in half, with one of the halves missing. It was all very unsettling indeed, but it was about to graduate into the horrifying. The witness explains. Here we go again. And this is according to a Reddit user. Okay, I saw a shadow. It's my hand. This is it's starting to get to me a little bit. A Reddit user assures us. Yeah, right. Cat Zaid Ange. So let me lay out the land for you. My house is about 100 yards from a small stream that splits the small wooded area in half, and on the far side of the stream from my house there are larger trees. So I was out there one day, and all of a sudden I felt cold and uncomfortable, like I was being watched. I also became increasingly paranoid that someone or something was out there with me, so I decided to head in. Plus the sun was setting and dusk would be upon me soon. So I started walking towards my house, which would mean I would have to walk uphill. So I start walking. At first, I was walking out of the woods like I was on someone's yard, and then they had told me to get off, not at a fast pace, but moving on what is going on? So I start walking at first. At first I was walking out of the woods like I was on someone's yard, and they had told me to get off, not a fast pace, but moving with a purpose, you know? Then I kind of felt like someone was really looking at me. That was tough, sorry. So I turned around and saw a large creature about 80 yards from me standing across a stream. It then proceeded to take a few steps towards me. And I'm not really an athlete, but I'm not mega weak. I would say that if I had to run about 20 yards uphill through the woods, it might take me 30 to 40 seconds. Yeah, I ran out of these woods in about 10 seconds. It is the most I've ever been scared and the most that adrenaline has ever been flowing through me. Now, I know what you're wondering. Could I have been dehydrated or having hallucinations? Well, I've never hallucinated once in my life, and I wasn't dehydrated because about 10 minutes prior to this event, I drank an entire bottle of water, and I always make sure I'm hydrated before I go woodland exploring. And there is no way that it was a tree because every time I go out there, I go to where I spotted it, and there isn't a single tree small enough to remotely look like what I saw. Since then, I haven't spotted it, but I hear it. It is believed by Native Americans that Wendigos call out for help like a human in order to lure people toward it. I have heard what sounds like a little girl calling for help out in these woods before. It is still terrifying to talk or even think about. Alright, so that's according to that Reddit user. Wendigo reports come from a surprisingly varied number of places around the United States. Our next report comes from the wilds of the mountains of the northern area of the state of Georgia. The witnesses in this case claim that he spends a lot of time camping and hiking in the area with his brother Ryan, and on this day, they had headed out to a place they knew very well, midway through Jack's River Trail in the Cohutta Wilderness. They searched for a good, secluded area to set up camp for a planned 2-night stay, got everything set up, and after a day of hiking and exploring the Jacks River, the trip seemed to be off to a great start. That night, they got a fire going, had dinner, and sat chatting away until a sound caught their attention. According to the witnesses, they were very familiar with the sounds of the forest, and this sounded off to them, as if several people were walking around the campsite trying not to be heard. Then things got bizarre rather quickly, of which the witnesses say, I'm not ready to become Shaq's Kebab. Don't mess with the Wendigo. Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be a good one. All right. I remember and this is according to I'm assuming another Reddit account. I remember we were both remember we both pulled out our flashlights and shone it in the direction we felt the sounds were coming from, but that is what was so weird. Whenever we would fix our lights on a spot we thought the sound was coming from, the location of the sound would suddenly change. That's when the whistling started. Oh, the whistling. Oh, that got me. There's a reason why we're called the whistlers on this podcast. At first I thought it was the wind, and I remember thinking maybe the wind is just throwing leaves around, and what we are hearing is nothing but the wilderness around us. Ryan looked at me and asked if I was hearing that. I didn't answer and was trying to focus hard on each individual sound. 2 consecutive notes with roughly a 3 to 4 second gap, and then 2 more consecutive notes. Over and over again, Ryan kept asking if I heard that, and I put my finger to my lips trying to keep him from talking. The fear I felt was incredible. My jaw was tight, my fist clenched, knowing I wasn't ready for whatever was out there, if it was anything at all. The whistling continued for what felt like forever, but thinking it through was maybe 5 minutes when Ryan finally yelled out into the darkness, "Hey, quiet!" The whistling stopped. We sat there in silence for a few minutes when the woods erupted with noise. Something or someone was running in a circle around our campsite. The whistling came back, 2 consecutive notes with the same 3 to 4 second gap, and then 2 more consecutive notes. How could someone whistle that loudly without cracking while also running? I was done. I stood up, shining my flashlight in all directions, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever was screwing with us. Nothing. It felt close enough to touch, but we never saw a thing. That's when the movement stopped, but the whistling was still constant. It was so loud. Inhumanly loud. I looked at Ryan and told him to call the police. Now this is the part I will never forget. The part I never like to talk about. While Ryan was on the phone with a dispatcher and telling them our location and what was going on, I stepped around the fire towards my tent. Inside my bag, I had a 6-inch fixed blade that I always carried and thought I would feel a bit more comfortable with it in my hand more than just my flashlight. As I went to unzip my tent, trying to keep my eyes toward the woods, I heard some movement directly in front of me. I saw my light in front of me, and for maybe 2 seconds, I saw it. Whatever this thing was, or person, it was about 5 feet up in a tree. Everything about it was long. Its arms, legs, necks, fingers, everything. And it was fast. As soon as the light hit it, it launched backwards off of the tree. I heard it land, but it either jumped an impossible distance or landed in a thicket because I heard it but never saw. I don't think I have ever yelled so loud. I ran back to where Ryan was and sat down. He kept asking me what I saw, but I couldn't answer. I just kept thinking about what I saw. Maybe 10 minutes later, we saw a couple of flashlight beams coming through the woods, and about 3 guys came into view, asking if everything was okay. I settled down a bit and started asking them if they had seen or heard anything. All they said was they heard a lot of movement, and then heard my scream, and that's when they headed in our direction. I tried to explain what had happened without sounding crazy, but it didn't seem to work. One of the guys walked around a bit and came back and said he didn't see anything. Ryan said to them that we called the police, and roughly 30 minutes later, a park ranger showed up. Ryan and I tried explaining everything to him, but he just chalked up to either a curious animal or some campers trying to mess with us. Wow. That was a very well written story, real or not. I'm thoroughly impressed. Bro said, "Hey, quiet, really tired of living, are ya?" Why would they go after it? Because that's what I would do if I hear creepy whistling in the woods. Yell at it. Right, Mace? Why would you yell, chase what would possibly come to kill you? Man. Wow, that was good. I'm not gonna lie, that gave me chills. That was a very well-written story. A lot to unpack there. Mainly, again, the idea of going after it. Which in this case, alright, one person went after it by yelling, "Hey," and another person went over to get their knife. That's not the same as a 15-year-old kid going after this water-based alien creature in the woods in Massachusetts. Okay? That will never leave my memory. That one is not the same as this, but why would you threaten it by yelling what's there? Why? I don't get it. What was going on here? From Texas, we have a report of a witness who claims this happened out in the Texas Hill Country during the hot summer months. He says that at the time he was visiting his parents' home, who lived there with their many cats. The house was along a creek, and the witness claims that one evening, one of the cats, named Topaz, oh no, don't let anything happen to the cat. I don't want to read about something bad happening to a cat. Who usually followed him around on his walks around the property, was with him, but this evening would prove to be stranger than most. He says of what happened next. Alright, I'm just going to try to rush through this. I don't want to read something bad about a cat. There is a creek on that property as well. And while There is a creek on the property as well, and while usually we had never had any issues while down there, this one time had proven to be quite strange. Topaz the cat... What? Hold on. Let me change my Discord real quick to do not disturb. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. There's a creek on that property as well, and while usually we had never had any issues while down there, this one time had proven to be quite strange. Topaz the cat was unwilling to cross in her usual spot, and it was eerily quiet. I noticed a little later that she was acting as if something was threatening her, so I looked up and saw it. This thing had long arms, and it was tall, but I don't remember anything like talons or claws. I do remember antlers and matted fur, but nothing gaunt or skeletal, and very large dark eyes oriented forward like a predator's would be. The weirdest thing about the whole situation was just being entirely overcome with fear and dread, literally to the point of vomiting. I threw up and sprinted back to the house with my cat and avoided the creek for ages. Okay, with the cat, so we're good. Though weirdly, I felt quite certain that whatever that thing was, it couldn't cross running water. And after a month, it felt like it had gone, and it was safe to go over there again alone. Now, as far as I know, there is no family history on either side for hallucinations, and even if there was, this would have been my only experience with one in my entire life, and it's been almost a full decade since this happened. Mostly I'm wondering if anything of this description presence has been encountered before, especially in Texas. What is going on behind these reports and others like them? And are they even truly encounters with the legendary Wendigo at all? After all, besides some of the telltale signs, such as a generation of fear, general appearance, and what appears to be, in some cases, an effort to trick or draw in the victim, as well as the assertion from all these witnesses that they were Wendigos, we are left wondering if these are perhaps something else to this, if there is something perhaps else to this all. Could this be some sort of other creature like a Sasquatch or even a supernatural entity such as a skinwalker? Could it just be hallucinations or misidentifications, maybe even hoaxes? Whatever they are, such accounts make the rounds from time to time and add a layer to the already rich and spooky lore of the Wendigo. Yeah, the cat's name was Topaz, right? Isn't that cute? Yeah, it's a good name. I like that name. That was a far more impressive article than I thought it would be. I won't lie. I thought that was going to be a bit more fantastical, I guess you would call it. So yeah, that is the, one of these websites. I think it was this one. No, one of these anyway. This one. So those are some reports, and excuse me, and yeah, I have to admit, my voice is getting very hoarse. I think I'm starting to come down with possible laryngitis. I don't know. The last few days, my throat's hurt. Almost like a throat ache. So maybe that sickness I've been dealing with is starting to make its way up. I don't know. My voice is getting hoarse. So I think I am going... Hold on. Wendigo Records? What if... Hold on. Let's see. Why? You should check with a doctor about it. Yeah. I'm supposed to have a checkup soon, so I think I'm gonna have to bring that up next time I go. Let's go. Am I able to April 10th, one snapshot. Alright, let's look at June 14th. Let's look at this. So this is Wendigo Records. This is a website. Oh. Never mind. Okay. Alright. Ignore the last, 2 minutes. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to end it here, unfortunately. I do apologize. we will be coming back to the Wendigo. This is one of those, like the Thunderbird, that there's a lot more to this. I do apologize. This is an hour and a half. But I don't think I can go any further. With that said, thank you, Lord Shax, for joining. Thank you, Mace Dog, for joining. Thank you, Apocalypse Hooper, for joining. And I thank you, the viewer, if you're watching this a video on demand, for watching as well. The Wendigo is a very fascinating folklore tale creature. There's a lot more that I will be talking about in the future when I revisit this topic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching, Lord Shax. I'm glad you could make it again today. And I hope you and everybody else, my wrist rest for my keyboard, have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and a wonderful Halloween. Again, this is the only teaser that I'm going to give for now. Keep an eye out. Soon, I will be posting a video about it. It's going to be very interesting. So, we'll see. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, Lord Shax. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Happy Halloween. Remember, somebody somewhere loves you, even if you don't know it yet. I mean, even if they don't know it yet. Or both. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and goodbye.